Okay, we're live.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Johnson. I'm the chair of the City of South Fulton's Zoning Board of Appeals. We will call this meeting to order at 1:04 p.m. Dana, are you ready to do roll call?
I am. Everybody hear
All
me?
right. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Mathis. Okay. Mr. Carson,
Here.
Ms. Elias,
Present.
Mr. Ham. All right. Ms. Harris,
Present.
Mr. Dawson,
Present.
and Ms. Jenkins.
Present.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Our next order of business is approval of minutes from our June 17th regular meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to see those, or if there are any questions or any concerns about them?
No concerns. I read them.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion for approval of the previous meeting's minutes.
All right. I have properly moved by Mr. Dawson and seconded by Mr. Carson. All right, we'll do a vote. Dana?
Okay. Roll call vote. Sorry. Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Ms. Elias,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
and Ms. Jenkins. Ms. Jenkins?
Yes.
Okay, that vote passes to approve the minutes.
All right, so it seems as though we have no old business. Is that still the case, Dana?
Yes, it is.
All right, well, we'll move right into new business. We have a petition hearing for V21-003, 5495 Old National Highway. I'll entertain a motion to go into public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Staff?
Yes, good afternoon, members of the board, and to all of the residents and interested parties listening today. As always, please send all comments to the planning email address. That's planning@cityofsouthfultonga.gov. And I say it every time at every meeting, but don't forget the GA, cityofsouthfultonga.gov. Next slide, please. Our first and only case today is V21-003, a variance at 5495 Old National. We can go to the next slide. I hear the applicant is seeking a variance from the Old National overlay guidelines in order to install roll-down doors at Grown Folks Cafe and Bar. Section 50109E of the zoning ordinance states that steel roll-down curtains are prohibited on the exterior and interior of the structure except at the structure's rear. So it does specifically address these types of doors. The doors have already been installed, so here the petitioner is seeking a retroactive variance, and the staff recommendation in this case is for denial. We can go to the next slide, please. Here's an aerial map of the site in question. The pin drop is in the middle is the shopping center. This business is right on the corner of that shopping center in the center of the screen. We can go to the next slide, please. One previous, please. Here on the left, we have the zoning map. On the right, the future land use map just showing the current zoning of commercial, and the future land use map showing it is community live work, which is commercial area. So everything is in line with the current zoning of the property. We can go to the next slide now, please. These are the doors that have been installed. So what the petitioners have done is removed the glass windows from their business, from the building, and installed the steel roll down doors. So on the right is the front of the cafe with the door down. On the left is the side of the business with the doors rolled up. So you can see that when the business is closed, or when it could be inclement weather of some type, they would close the doors. When it's open, the doors would get rolled up, and the restaurant will be open to the elements on the sides and in the front. We can go to the next slide, please. This is a view of the doors installed and rolled up from the inside of those now exterior spaces. And we can go to the next slide, please. Here's a picture from the inside with the doors rolled down. All these pictures were submitted by the applicant. And this is the end of the staff presentation.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into public comment regarding this issue. Public hearing, I'm sorry, public hearing.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we open the public hearing for variance application B21-003 located at 5495 Old National Highway, Suite A1.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think that's Mr. Dawson.
Yes, sir.
Properly moved and seconded. Dana, you want to take a roll call vote?
Yes, roll call vote. Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Ms. Elias,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Jenkins.
Yes.
That vote passes.
All right, we are now in public hearing and public comment. 10 minutes are reserved for those speaking in favor of each case, and another 10 minutes are reserved for those speaking in opposition of each case. Please state your name, address, and the council district within which your, in this case, restaurant resides. So is there anyone here for the petitioner?
Good afternoon. Yes, I am here on behalf of the petitioner. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and staff. I'm Jonquel Peters. My address is 1820 Washington Road, East Point, Georgia, 30344. I'm here along with Sharonda Hubbard, and we are consultants on behalf of Harriet Bryant. If I may continue, Mr. Chair.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bryant owns multiple businesses in the city of South Fulton, including Grown Folks Cafe, which is the subject of this application and request. That building is located in the Old National Overlay District at 5495 Old National Highway in Council District 5. We are here to request a variance. As you heard, roll down doors are currently permissible in back of buildings in the overlay district, and we're requesting relief to allow 2 roll down doors to remain, one in front of the building, and as you saw, one on the side. That's creating an outdoor dining option for Grown Folks Cafe and securing the business's second bar on site, which is properly permitted. The onset of COVID-19 in 2020 threatened all of us. It was and still is a worldwide pandemic. During that time of uncertainty, we all had to pivot quickly. While many businesses adapted easily to a virtual platform, there were council meetings, telehealth appointments, courtrooms, and I could go on. That was simply not possible and remains impossible for the restaurant industry. The CDC came up with guidelines that encourage restaurants to create an outdoor space where viral spread and transmission was kept to a minimum. Time was of the essence, and this is what Harriet did. We certainly understand that city ordinances could not catch up. This is the hardship, and the roll down doors are the remedy. There is simply no other option, and certainly no other option that would provide a quick pivot, an opportunity to create a safe environment for customers of Grown Folks Cafe. It's situated on a parcel that does not allow for the addition of patio space outside of the current footprint of the building. A patio cannot be built on the right side of the building because it's connected to the other structures. A patio cannot be built on back of the building because it abuts against the area where trash dumpsters are located. And a patio cannot be built on the left side of the building because it would be too close to a retention pond and too close in proximity to Old National Highway, creating an unreasonable risk to human life. Denial of the request would be detrimental to the viability of a long-standing business in the city. After exploring the district, I can say this building is in fact unique. We found no evidence of a restaurant that could remove windows and create a patio space and secure an outdoor bar. Grown Folks Cafe has a properly permitted second bar on site, and it would be irresponsible to create an attractive nuisance with a space that is any less secure than what the roll down doors can provide. Roll down doors and metal gates are permissible in the overlay district only in the back of a building, yet we see them everywhere. On old and new buildings alike, storage facilities, new store that resells building materials, big name stores, non-secular ministries, mobile wireless locations, package stores, beauty supply locations, car washes, service stations, and even residential garages. In a variety of places in this overlay district, you will find roll down doors used outside of the ordinance's permitted use. To say that Grown Folks Cafe is an institution is an understatement. For over 25 years, Grown Folks Cafe, Harriet Bryant, has been a successful business owner and active part of the community. Not only do we think that a hardship exists, but it is one that can be remedied by this variance request. It is an equitable remedy and one that, if denied, would create an unnecessary burden to the owner. The downfall of one of the city's oldest businesses, while granting the request, causes absolutely no detriment to the public. We at this time respectfully ask that you grant the application to allow the variance. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my introduction and submission on behalf of Harriet Bryant. She is a part of the proceeding this afternoon.
All right, thank you. Do you have her to speak, or you just want to hear the
No,
other side? Okay, great.
just so that the panel will know.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anybody here to speak against, in the opposition, I should say?
It looks like I have two.
Okay, can you call them up?
Yes, I can. We have Mr. Alvin Reynolds, who resides in Kings Place, Riverdale, Georgia. I want to comment on Grown Folks Restaurant Variance Application V21-003 and the use of the steel door roll down curtains that is a violation of the Old National District overlay, which is prohibited on the exterior and interior structure except at the structure's rear. There also can not be a point where a business can create a hardship for themselves by stating a financial impediment of loss of revenue if this type of structure is not used. There are many allowable structures that should have been considered, as well as filing for a variance before the install took place. This is an ongoing issue within the Old National area in which code enforcement has been notified on each instance. For a business to have been operating in this area for over 20 years had to have known that choosing this type of curtain went against the district overlay as it is written to date. By allowing this variance to go forth sends a wrong message in the use of the district's overlays, not just in this area, but throughout the city. And the second one is from Mr. Michael Venable. This letter is to request you follow compliance with zoning law and deny the variance for 5495 Old National Highway. From your initial training for this commission, not only is it required for the applicant to show a hardship, under no circumstance whatsoever is financial harm or benefit to be used as a supporting argument. Review the pros presented by the applicant. Every sentence talks about the applicant's financial need. You all are lucky to have seasoned professionals on your commission that, along with staff, can confirm the illegality of using financial arguments in zoning variance cases. Restrictions on roll-up doors along Old National have been in place for decades. The applicant knew or should have known that the installation of the roll-up doors is illegal. This action severely damages this community as having a warehouse motif directly facing the commercial corridor, and its subdivision completely erodes the professional image of the community. The burden of proof of a hardship is on the owner, who should be prepared to explain why the unusual characteristics of the property make it more difficult to use the property in compliance with the zoning regulations. That is for other owners of property in the same district. It does not, as every similar business has made no modification. Financial constraints, health problems, or any self-created hardship cannot justify a variance. The business has been in operation for decades. No other restaurant or bar in the greater area has illegally modified their building and is still in operation. Legal modified windows or decorative closures could have easily satisfied any perceived personal need of the business owner. Any issue of the business is self-created and thus no legitimate hardship can be justified. Let us review the facts by which your decision should be to deny. The use of the property can and will completely exist without the variance, period. The roll-up doors restriction applies to all similar businesses in the area and does not deprive the applicant of any rights, as no special rights have been given to any other restaurant or bar, period. The variance would not be in harmony with the zoning resolution, as roll-up doors are derogatory in non-industrial districts like Old National, period. As hard as the residents and property owners in this community have worked to improve the viability and aesthetics of Old National, I encourage you to support the overlay regulations of this community and deny this variance for roll-up doors. That concludes his, and I have one that appears to be for this application.
Actually,
Shall
I
I
was
proceed?
gonna, yes, go ahead and proceed, and this will go with the other.
Thank you. This is from Mr. Emmanuel Rainey. I may be late getting this to you. However, I wanted to make sure you all knew the Old National merchants are in complete support. They have been a standard for other locations on the corridor and are looking to better their service during these times. And that concludes.
All right, Ms. Peters, you still have a couple of minutes. Would you like to respond to anything?
I don't know if there are any questions. I'm happy to respond to any questions that the board may have.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
All
thank
right,
you.
it seems that we don't have anyone else to speak. Dana, I'm just double checking before I call to close.
That was just those three, yes.
Okay, all right, I'll entertain a motion to close out public hearing.
I move that we close out public hearing for application V21003.
I second.
All right, properly moved by Ms. Harris and seconded by Ms. Jenkins. Dana, roll call vote, please, sir.
Yes, roll call. Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Ms. Elias,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Jenkins.
Yes.
That vote passes to close public comment.
All right, I'll move into questions. It seems as though Mr. Dawson has his hand raised.
Yep,
Mr. Dawson, before you speak, if anybody else has any questions, if you can do the raised hand gesture, I will notice you and bring you up. All right, go ahead, Mr. Dawson.
thank you. Had a few questions. I think the attorney for this applicant made some compelling points. I want to hear more about those other structures currently operating in the overlay district with roll-up doors. So you have documented addresses of other properties using this right now?
I didn't go so far as to document the addresses. I did provide some pictorial evidence to the staff. It did not make it into the presentation, but it was pretty easy to find those locations. And I intentionally, sir, did not call them out by name.
Okay, yeah, I guess a tough case here because the people who spoke in opposition, certainly this in all cases deserve scrutiny, but I am sympathetic to the health impacts and the idea, that this improves ventilation. I'd like to hear from staff what other options for indoor-outdoor space could have been explored in this case.
I do wish that question had been asked, before they had installed this, but immediately what comes to mind would be glass accordion doors, would just be, regular sliding doors, would be a glass garage style door. So, I mean, I think there's plenty, or even just, opening windows. I think there's plenty of options other than just the steel roll down doors that were installed.
So in response to that, I would certainly say that yes, possibly glass sliding doors, and the roll down glass doors are simply rolled down doors, steel doors they're just clear. So it's the same apparatus, it's just a different visual. So I certainly understand that. One of the reasons why the glass was not something that was considered, as I mentioned in my presentation, there is a bar. There's a bar in there, and it's a properly permitted second bar. Security would dictate that, glass is an attractive nuisance, and the building did not have clear glass on it prior to the removal of that glass and the installation of doors. They were sort of tinted. You could not see opaque windows. I certainly, in hindsight, I'm sure the applicant, Harriet, would see a lot of things much more clearly. But we still don't believe that those clear garage doors would be an appropriate way in which to create this space. It does create an attractive nuisance, and we certainly wouldn't want to add to any crime numbers or anything like that, or be a nuisance to the community with something that was visible like that.
And one more point, I definitely agree with staff. Would have been great if this could have been requested in advance. Probably would have made things easier, even for an approval. From staff's perspective, if this is denied, how long would they have to change this out?
That'd be a code enforcement decision. They'd have to work it out with the individual officer assigned to the case, or with the director of that department.
Okay, thanks all.
And just to respond to Mr. Dawson with regard to timeframe, this was a substantial commitment. And it would not be, I couldn't speak to how long it would take, but it would not be a fast process to be able to go reorder glass and get these things. Obviously, we would do whatever is required and as quickly as we could. We would still then be left with a space that did not have ventilation and would be detrimental to this business entity.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your question.
All right, is that it, Mr. Dawson?
Yes, sir.
All right, and just to let you all know, I'm going by the order in which they're on my screen. So I have Ms. Elias, Ms. Harris, and Ms. Jenkins. So you can go ahead, Ms. Elias.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is more of a procedural question for staff. I was just wondering if a permit were required when the windows were initially removed and the doors were installed.
That would not have come to my division. I wouldn't necessarily have knowledge of the construction projects going on all throughout the city. I would have to say that I would assume it would have, but I'm not privy to that information. They don't come to me, building permits don't.
Okay, and the only reason I asked is because with this being within an overlay district, typically if a permit were required, you all within the planning side of the department should be able to review any permits that are submitted, such that this probably could have been caught at the time of permitting before the doors were actually installed. So that's just more of a procedural issue.
That's correct.
That I wanted to put out there for you, that maybe you want to make sure that when plans come in any of your overlay districts, that someone on your team actually is a part of that plan review process.
Yes, I don't disagree. When the permits come in, they are screened, but they don't automatically come to me. There's no automatic review of all those things. I would ask the petitioner, did they apply for building permits when they put these up, or did they just put them up?
I didn't represent her at the time, and so it did not come up in the presentation of this. She's on. I know she didn't do the work. She had the work contracted out, so I don't know if she would even know the process that they went through. This was done June of last year, and I became involved in January. So I'm sorry, I don't have that answer for you. It wasn't pertinent to the application process, so I didn't include it.
And let me add some information for the board. Mr. McClendon sent me some information from our code. I'll just read what was sent to me. This is going with the time frame. Compliance with standards upon denial. In such case that an application to the board is initiated due to an existing violation of this chapter and such application is denied, the violation shall be required to be corrected within 10 to 30 days of such denial or as specified by the board if a greater time period is required. The maximum extension of time the board may grant for correction shall be not less than 30, no more than 90 days. So you have up to 90 days to make a correction. Past that time again, I know this was initiated by code enforcement going out, so code enforcement would be the mechanism we would use to go and check on that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that information.
All right, does that cover it, Ms. Elias?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, before I bring up Ms. Harris, I just want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Mr. Ham. Are you there, Mr. Ham?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just wanted to acknowledge the fact that you've joined the meeting. All right, Ms. Harris.
Good afternoon, Attorney Peters.
Good afternoon.
My question is, you indicated that this was done in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which I can understand. How many actual tables and people can be seated and still be properly distanced according to the COVID-19 protocols in this area that was set up for this particular situation?
It is my understanding that the distancing protocols were not required for outdoor seating. I would have to add, the pictures on the screen, you can see the amount of seating that there is. I can ask Miss Bryant if she knows exactly how many tables and chairs. I've been over there several times. I did not count, but with the outdoor space, the distancing was not an issue.
I see.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I'm looking at the photographs and I'm trying to determine or clarify what additional advantage as far as space is concerned, as opposed to how many people were inside, closed inside. And then when you did these doors, you open up an outside space. I'm trying to compare what the advantage was of doing this as far as how many people you will be able to accommodate and would benefit from this modification.
Yes, ma'am. This gives an option. Restaurants that I personally have not gone to a lot of restaurants myself other than takeout, but this provides an option. And without the roll down doors or a mechanism to create an indoor outdoor space that is secure, there would be no option, and people would only have the option of being inside of a building. And that just doesn't seem safe in this environment. And we have seen restaurants suffer immeasurably from this COVID pandemic. So in a way, yes, ma'am, you are definitely correct in trying to analyze the space requirements, but this provides an option for quite a significant amount of seating, whereas the other option is the restaurant would potentially be vacant.
If I could speak, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So the outdoor seating seats about 40 to 45 people, but not always are people seated out there. Mostly you have people standing and just having the doors open, providing fresh air to come in. So it helps with the airflow inside the club itself. But not always are the chairs out there. It's just people coming out, standing, and getting fresh air and moving around. And they do come out and eat early on. So it's not just for basically seating. It's just to have the airflow moving through the club, fresh air.
I understand, and you're right, fresh air does, help. It does.
Yes, ma'am.
So my second question is, she mentioned that it was for security purposes as far as your second bar is concerned. If
Yes, ma'am.
glass there, would somebody be able to see that second bar?
Yes, ma'am.
Register your drinks, everything that's
It's kind of dark now. The picture that's on your right-hand side, if you look back where I can see I know where I can see the glass is hanging back there. So if you see where the light fixture is, that's where the second bar is. The windows that were in place were opaque prior to the installation of the roll down doors. So you could not see from the front or the side of the building. You were not able to see the bar.
all right. And you also stated that you wanted to, there are actually 3 steel doors, and you stated you wanted to just have 2. You plan on removing one of the doors?
I may have, I think when no, that's not so doors. So I misspoke when I said 2 doors. I forgot that the ones on the side that are not connected are a very large door, but they're 2. So there's one roll down door in the front, and on the side, it's not one large door, it is 2 roll down doors.
I see. And it appears that according to your application, that the colors do blend. However, my question is, why did you choose the lighter color as opposed to choosing the reddish color that seems to be the color of the brick on top of the doors?
If I could.
Yes, because I don't know, Harriet.
Well, we initially went with the red color, but determined that they were too bright for that side. So we went with a more neutral color. That wasn't screaming.
I see. And did you consider, when you install the doors, did you consider possibly, first of all, do you have any shrubbery on your property in the front or on the side where these doors are?
On the side. Well, not directly against the brick there, but on the street, there's retention there. So we have to have a shrubbery to have a border there between the retention and the club. So you can see the shrubbery on the road, but nothing against the brick on the building.
Okay, and you're right, shrubbery is required by the zoning ordinance. Did you consider making sure that your shrubbery is kept in a condition, trimmed and groomed to ensure that your blending of these doors and everything would conform?
Yes, ma'am.
Still comply with the zoning ordinance?
Well, the shrubbery that's there, it has been there for over 20 years. So with the color coordination that we came up with, I thought it was a perfect color scheme that we chose for beautification.
Yes. So not as far as the color scheme is concerned, but keeping the shrubbery trimmed and groomed to create a proper aesthetic to go along with the doors.
Yes, ma'am.
And your establishment, to make everything look uniform and nice and neat.
Yes, ma'am. If you saw before pictures, you would have seen, and I think Attorney Peters has pictures, but there was a lot of overgrowth and on the side of the building with the vines on the buildings and all. So it was not always a good look, but now that we've installed the doors, we have to make sure that that everything is kept up to date, and the landlord he makes sure that that's taken care of, and if it starts to overgrow, then we just give them a call and they come out. But yes, ma'am, we do keep that in mind.
Are there, this is my last question, are there any other portions of your building that are not brick, that may be of another material such as wood, that are a different color from your doors and your red brick accents, that are different from those colors?
Right, there is a wood, as you can see, the tip of another side there that has windows. They already had windows. The extension from the area that you see that goes to the back of the building, but it's of wood and it's of a tan color that we thought went well with the color that we chose for the doors. But it is of wood and it does have windows in that area.
Has that area been properly painted and in condition that it would blend in with the doors and the other colors that you have?
I'm not sure if it was painted before we did the renovation or after, but it was painted at one time. I'm not really sure as to the timeline, but it was painted.
I see. And I said that was my last question, but I have one more.
Okay.
Is it that you just didn't know that you couldn't put these doors, these steel doors up?
Well, no, ma'am. No, ma'am, I didn't. When I met with the builders to remodel, to just come up with an idea how I can have an open space, I in fact called my landlord. I did not know. So I called my landlord and I asked him if it was okay if I did that, because of the pandemic and whatnot. And he said, yeah, it sounds good to him. So obviously he didn't know either, but I did communicate with my landlord prior to doing it. But no, ma'am, I did not know.
All right, thank you
Right.
very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harris. Ms. Jenkins?
Okay, I wanted to follow up on Ms. Elias's concern regarding the permitting, because it's my understanding that once a business owner contracts with someone to do work, it's that contractor's responsibility to get all necessary licensing and permits to do the work. However, before those permits are approved, there should be some flow in the process so that all other departments who might be involved in the process, whether it's a variance or anything else, that there be some coordination before approving the permit. And if that's not a part of the process, then I would like to recommend to staff that you reach out to whoever needs to be contacted so that in the future, should something like this happen, you all get a chance to weigh in.
Yes, that is correct. I agree completely. And let me correct this or restate. There are processes in place for permits to get all the appropriate reviews. So permits are not just issued randomly or without being reviewed as they need to be. They don't come to me personally, but they do come to the appropriate members of the organization, different departments that are appropriate. So again, I would again ask the petitioner, was this done without a permit? Did you bring this to the city at all ahead of time?
Yes, we
have to
did
take
get a permit. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Harry. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
We did have the job permitted. As to the details of the permit, I'm not aware of. I just hired the contractor to do.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and I do have a second question, and that one is in regard to the staff recommendations to deny. You mentioned that there was some other options for the applicant to create the desired indoor-outdoor space that would be in more harmony. But you didn't state what those options were. I'm curious to know what other options would have given the business owner an ability to create outdoor, fresh air
Right.
into the outdoor space without going against the code.
Yeah, so the big thing that we're talking about here is the specific steel roll down doors. So, any type of door, not the steel doors. Again, we could have accordion doors, other types of glass garage doors. We could have large windows that open. You could have just double doors hung to open up to the outside, or sliding doors. So there are a lot of options to creating outdoor space and to opening up this space and allowing for better ventilation. But this specific one is just disallowed by the code.
Okay, so the other options that you just spoke about, would they also have provided security?
Yes, those are not options that are not done in other places.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out too, as well, that it's hard to see from the pictures, and I apologize. I am not a photographer. I did the very best that I could. But if you, the roll down doors do not sort of drop to the ground. There is a sort of a brick, for lack of a better term, a brick wall. So it frames out the space. So the drop down doors don't go all the way to the ground. When you talk about some of those sliding doors, those are custom doors. Materials were very much scarce. In the middle of they're still scarce, but materials were very scarce. And in speaking with Harriet and trying to understand why this route was chosen, one, the glass doors that she had, the glass windows, the glass framing that she had in place prior to these doors, it was opaque, black, completely opaque. So the glass really was not an option that felt safe and appropriate for a place like this. And with regard to any other options, taking that really quick pivot was hard, and decisions were made. And granted, she just wasn't aware that this particular one was not allowed in the per the ordinance. Some of it is just that materials were just so scarce. And when you're talking about having your business closed for a significant amount of time, it's just untenable.
All right, thank you. Mr. Carson.
Good afternoon. What considerations with respect to the ventilation, because I've heard that the goal was to have fresh air, the patrons can go out and have fresh air, but what consideration was given to enhancing the ventilation in the property instead of just, this outdoor space with the roll-up doors?
CDC guidelines. I mean, they just specifically, it was on the CDC website, and the guidance came down to creating outdoor space. It wasn't about certainly redoing the entire ventilation system. It was just specifically for restaurants. And I don't have the date that particular guidance came down. It was on the CDC's website, a quick Google search. I'm sure I could procure it, but it spoke specifically of creating an outdoor space.
Yeah, because I was looking during my off-screen camera time. I was looking for the Georgia's ordinances and what Georgia's recommendations were, because I know of a number of businesses that increase their ventilation in response to it, not necessarily, doing something of this nature, but they, looked at it increasing their ventilation system And that's what I really wanted to know, how much consideration was given to that. Was that cost prohibitive to do that? Or was this more about economics as well? So that's really what I wanted to find.
And maybe Harry can speak to that. All I can say is that the CDC guidelines, when I procured the guidelines and looked them up, they specifically talked about creating an outdoor space. This was not at all an inexpensive project that she undertook. But Harriet, maybe you can speak to whether or not you at the time considered any ventilation options for your business.
No, I didn't. It was, like you said, the CDC was just speaking of creating an outdoor space. And I went so far as to the front of the building, right next to the front door, having chairs and seating out there. And then, of course, that was not a good thing to do. So, of course, my wheels were spinning, and this is what we came up with. It's like we could just open the space up and have the fresh air come through. So, no, I did not think of ventilation system.
You put the chairs out. You put the chairs out front before you got the doors. And was that did code enforcement shut that down?
Yes, I did have someone come out and say we're not supposed to do that.
So she tried to put the chairs before the renovations.
The tables and chairs.
Tables and chairs. I'm sorry, tables and chairs on the front. So there's quite a bit of a park. There's like a sidewalk area, a sort of covered sidewalk, and then there's parking lot. And the tables and chairs went out in the front in an attempt to create this outdoor space, and code enforcement got involved.
All right, does that cover it, Mr. Carson?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
All right. All right, not seeing any further questions, because we covered a lot.
It looks like Ms. Harris's hand is still raised.
I noticed she never let it down. Did you have an additional question, Ms. Harris? Oh, there it is.
I did not. I do that all the time. I leave the hand up. Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. We'll high five you and we'll keep going. So with no further questions, I can entertain a motion as it relates to this case.
I move that we, although I'm very sympathetic to the case, but hearing from the opposition, just following the letter of the law and staff recommendation, I move for a denial with a 90-day grace period, the maximum grace period to remediate the case.
I second that motion.
All right, properly moved by Mr. Dawson and seconded by Ms. Jenkins. Dana?
Yes. Roll call vote.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Carson,
Yes.
Ms. Elias,
Yes.
Mr. Ham,
Yes.
Ms. Harris, Ms. Harris.
I want to make sure I'm clear. The
Oh,
motion
okay.
deny. The motion is to deny.
Yes, ma'am.
With a 90-day grace period to make the correction.
You're right, Mr. Dolphin. This is tough. But according to the ordinance, yeah, I'm gonna have to vote.
Okay, Mr. Dawson
Deny.
Yes.
and Ms. Jenkins.
Yes.
That vote passes to deny with a 90-day grace period to resolve.
All right, thank you. It looks like that will be it for today. Well, it seems like we have no other. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you to the staff and our board members. We truly appreciate your time and patience as we move through these, especially in this virtual environment. Anything else, Dana? Any announcements or anything?
No, sir.
All right.
Reginald has his hand up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. McClendon. I was going to say something about you, but you got it now.
Greetings to the board. I couldn't get my microphone to work earlier, so my apologies for that. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you, Nathan, for that introduction, and I look forward to working with all of you.
All right, we are truly looking forward to working with you as well. All right, with no further questions, comments, or concerns, we will adjourn. Don't worry, Dana, it's unanimous. Trust me, it's
Great day,
unanimous.
everybody.
Okay.
All right, y'all have a great day.
All right,
Thanks so much.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.